Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the very essence of modern protection. You know, when most folks think about information security, they usually picture this random hodgepodge of firewalls, passwords, and maybe a couple of locked doors. But as we're going to see today, drawing straight from the authoritative information security fundamentals, true security, it's not a random collection. It is a massive, highly structured ecosystem. It's literally a precise architectural discipline. So it really boils down to one fundamental question. Are you actually building a secure, defensible fortress, or are you just throwing a few shiny digital locks on a canvas tent? Because think about it. Buying security tools without an underlying architecture is kind of like buying a high-end bank vault door for a house made of straw, right? To build a true fortress, we need an ecosystem.
Here's our architectural blueprint for this explainer. We're looking at 4 key building blocks today. First, we'll map the security ecosystem. Second, the 25 security domains. Third, the 9 security models. Fourth, the hierarchy of frameworks. And finally, we'll wrap up with standards and best practices.
Section 1. Mapping the security ecosystem. Let's lay down that foundational map.
Okay, let's dive into this. The entire landscape of information security practice is basically constructed from 4 essential building blocks. First up, the domains. This is the physical territory, right? The map of absolutely everything we have to protect. Second, the models. You can think of this as the theoretical physics of our fortress, the math that actually proves a system is secure. Third, the frameworks. These are our blueprints, detailing exactly how we organize and govern. And fourth, the reference layer, the instruction manual that bridges all that academic theory with everyday boots-on-the-ground reality.
Section 2. The 25 security domains. Time to explore those defined territories.
There are exactly 25 security domains. It sounds like a sheer, overwhelming scope, doesn't it? 25. But here is why this is absolutely crucial. These domains encompass everything an organization has to address. So the big takeaway here is this. Ignorance of any single one of these 25 territories is not a neutral position. It is an unmanaged risk. Basically, if you don't know a domain even exists, well, you can't assess it, and you certainly can't protect it.
To make sense of all 25 domains, we break them down into 3 logical categories. It's a really elegant rule of 3. First up, strategic management. This sets the rules. These domains define what must be protected and why. Next, security engineering. This is where we actually design and build the fortress, so we're talking cryptography, network, and cloud security. And finally, security operations. This is running the fortress day to day, monitoring the alerts, responding to incidents when the walls actually get breached. They all completely rely on each other to work.
Section 3. The 9 security models. Let's look at the theoretical physics I mentioned earlier.
There are 9 formal security models. Now, you're never going to see a button in your software that just says, turn on security model, but these models are the underlying mathematical logic embedded into literally every policy you enforce. They fall into 3 main categories. Confidentiality models prove exactly how we protect our secrets. Integrity models, like BIBA and Clark-Wilson, prove how we protect the accuracy of our data. And access control models, they govern the rules for how permissions are granted and revoked. To really understand how these models work, we can look at the classic contrast between the Bell-LaPadula and BIBA models. Bell-LaPadula is all about confidentiality. Its core rule is no read up, no write down. What that means is, a user with secret clearance can't read top-secret files, and they can't take a top-secret file and write its contents down into an unclassified folder. It basically creates a one-way valve for secrets. But BIBA? BIBA is the exact mathematical opposite because its entire focus is integrity, protecting accuracy. Its rule is no read down, no write up. High-integrity processes shouldn't read untrusted low-integrity data, and low-integrity users shouldn't be able to write over high-integrity records. It ensures garbage data doesn't accidentally corrupt your pristine systems.
Now, what's really interesting here is how these models apply to commercial reality, not just the military. The Brewer-Nash, or Chinese wall model, is just brilliant. It's a dynamic access control model. Imagine you're a consultant. The second you access confidential data for client A, the system dynamically drops a Chinese wall and immediately blocks you from accessing any data from client A's direct competitors. It's an automated way to prevent insider trading and conflicts of interest based entirely on your access history. How cool is that?
Section 4. The hierarchy of frameworks. Let's look at those architectural blueprints.
Let's move to and see how this builds a complete enterprise-wide structure. You see, you don't just use one framework, you use a whole hierarchy of them. At the very top, architecture frameworks translate your business context into a working structure. That then flows down into governance and risk frameworks, like NIST CSF or FAIR, which actually justify the program. Right below that, compliance frameworks like ISO 27001 or GDPR step in as mandatory constraints. This then naturally selects the control frameworks, which specify the exact safeguards, and finally cascades all the way down into the operational frameworks that sustain your day-to-day incident response. It's this beautiful, continuous, top-to-bottom methodology.
Section 5. Standards and Best Practices. Time for the instruction manual.
This is the reference layer, and it basically operates in 3 steps. First up, standards. These dictate the what. They are the hard, auditable rules like your ISO 27001 requirements. Second is guidance. This is the how. Documents like the NIST special publications take those rigid rules and translate them into practical advice. And finally, vendor best practices. This is the reality phase. It's how you actually configure your Cisco network, your Microsoft Azure cloud, or your Oracle database to meet all those theoretical requirements from the frameworks.
A complete information security management system, or ISMS, brilliantly illustrates the ultimate integration of everything we've just talked about. Look at how every single layer connects here. At the very top, we start with a pure business need. That cascades into what we must secure, our data, our assets. We determine the domains, apply those mathematical security models, select our standards and frameworks, review the guidance, and finally, at the very bottom, we deploy the specific vendor controls. The amazing part is every single firewall rule or encryption key at the bottom can be traced directly back to a business objective at the top.
So we come right back to our starting question. Take a hard look at your own organization right now. Are you just buying random vendor controls and hoping for the best, or are all 4 building blocks, the 25 domains, the theoretical models, the framework hierarchies, and the real-world standards, working in unison? Because when they do, you aren't just locking a tent anymore. You are governing, engineering, and operating a true information security fortress. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep building.